Okay, I've got the head construction part here. I'm building it kind of as I go, and then I made a duplicate of the chassis of the body. What's going on here? Huh. There we go. So sometimes your tablet is resting on your keyboard. It makes unpredictable things happen. So that's what I always try to check when something's going wrong. Is something leaning on a key on your keyboard? So this is going to be my chassis. And on that, I will bolt a head. Notice that I'm designing the head a little bit bigger than it needs to be for my sketch. But my sketch shows me the size and resolution of my final product. Okay, now legs. So if this is my chassis, this looks like my best reference for feet, because I want to see each leg separately. If you're doing a creature with 4 feet, don't make the mistake of letting the legs hide behind other legs. Will make other things we do more difficult. So duplicate that with Command J, erase the smart layer underneath, and just move that out somewhere. And I have auto select layer with the move tool on so I can move things around. Okay, I am going to add the foliage after I get the whole thing kind of structured together. So first I'm going to go with my main structure, my chassis. So how do I cut this out a little bit better? Well, first I can do a better job with my lasso, getting a little tighter, but not trying to go right to the edge, especially because this is a creature that has fur, and fur is slightly soft at the edge with light coming through. I'm not going to waste the time going right to its edge perfectly and erasing until I know what's actually going to show. But I want to be close enough so I don't have a big border between this element and the other elements. I also know I don't need this head. Okay. So now I've done a tighter lassoing around. I'm not going to duplicate that and erase, though I could do that. Instead, I'll select the inverse and delete. And that will delete everything away. So I'm trying to strip material, refine it only to what I want to work with. Then I put it on my sketch, which is in the background. And what I can do is I can take the opacity down a little bit. And very important to know where your joints are. So my sketch has joints differently at the back than this creature does. Notice that his hips are turned the other way, right? And his front is also turned the other way. It's a bit of a bummer. So let me look at my reference. And I wouldn't have noticed that unless I did the, whatchamacallit, the transparency. Now this one, the front is at least turned the right way for my sketch. Now does that mean that I should just abandon my sketch? Not really, because remember my sketch was inspired by this Pokemon design, and it's really nice to have that open chest at front, even if I might not be able to get that open chest or open pelvis at the back. But look at the Clydesdale. The Clydesdale has an open pelvis at the back. So now I'm thinking the chassis of the chest is going to come from here, which is nice and open. And this is why you get multiple references. And the chassis of the back will come from here. Not a bad way to go. Use the rib cage from one animal and the pelvis from another. Just make sure you have a spine that connects. and make sense. So I'll do a loose cutout first. I don't need the head. Duplicate that, erase the smart layer. Now I do a tighter cutout to put it on the chassis. I'm not that knowledgeable about cars, so I might be using that term completely wrong, but what I mean is the core structure that everything gets bolted to. Again, I'm just getting a closer cutout, but not trying to go right to the edge, because it's not worth doing that until you know what you're using and what you're not using. Because it's a lot of work to cut them out really cleanly. Select inverse, delete. Just strip it. Whoops, make sure I'm on the right layer. Okay, now I can turn off the other one, but leave it there just in case. And now I've got a back pelvis that makes a little bit more sense. Take its opacity down and transform it. In this case, rotate it slightly. Try, and maybe even skew it or distort it. There we go. So that the joints start to match up. Distort is a really good tool for this because it will keep your anatomy's integrity, but it will shift the proportions. All right, so I'm mostly looking at the anatomy of the front of this chest and of those legs. So let's take that up to 100%. Let's see, yes, that's starting to look pretty good. Back it up slightly. You can use your arrow keys for nudging. Maybe rotate it a slight bit more. There we go. Good. Okay, now let's look at the other reference. Is there any part of it I can use? Let's move it on top. I can use the legs if I need to. Not really much else. So I'm just going to keep that in the background for now. All right. Now the back pelvis, because I want to open like that, not turned away from us. So this is the other reason I like to build it in sections, because you might use different parts of the same reference for different reasons. So here I'm just going to select the back half of this horse. And then duplicate it, Command J, bring it down. Take its opacity down so I can start blending it. I want a lot of overlap. Scale it, use my sketches reference. I can distort it to line up that spine. And I can use distort to shift the angles a little bit. Hit return for now. Turn off, let's see, that reference so I can see my anatomy. And then keep playing with it. Let's see. Yeah, very nice. So that's lining up well. And then let's see how it works with the front. Okay, so I'm going to need to blend more. Probably I need more rib cage, right? So I'll need to bring that up. But I can even try warping it just at the rib cage part, because I want as much usable overlap as possible, like so. And it's like pulling dough. Remember, as long as the spine connects and the skeletal structures are there, you can push and pull. But you have to always keep the big picture in mind. Okay. Now the front legs, the front feet. It's a little tricky. I'm going to turn them out. So I'm just going to use this part of the Clydesdale for the opposite foot. And you'll see what I mean. Because once you have the structure of where things go, this becomes a little bit easier. Using the auto select layer to know what layer I'm on and duplicating from. Moving pieces down. So when you're distorting or warping, just make sure you're keeping your sketch in mind, and that things are still lining up with your sketch. Otherwise, you can really get in trouble. Lining up in believable ways with your sketch. Okay, and now the other foot, I'm swapping it. So I just used the front leg for the back leg, and now I'm going to try to use this back leg, what there is of it, for the front leg. But I've got other Clydesdale reference I can use as well, especially that young one. This just gets me started. So this is the loose welding of the pieces together. Let me move that in front. Command right bracket is the shortcut for that. Yeah, so that's making sense so far. I've got my main structure. I'm not going to try to do too many refinements. Not yet, but basically it will look like soft erasing. First taking off the hard edges. This is why you need a lot of overlap, and then using lower opacities to start transitioning colors and textures. See? And then they'll start to look more and more like one creature. But first I just want to roughly bolt all the pieces together. It's a good time to save my work. I'm going to say save as, because this is no longer my sketch. This is my assignment 2, creature collage. PSD file to the desktop. Now it'd be very tempting just to extend the neck